are back, remembering Dynasty, bums, and a whole lot more with Peter Golenbock. I'm Ralph Tyko. This is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and Mr. Golenbock is with us. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine, Ralphie, just fine.
Oh, good. You're at a Tampa Bay game today. I hope your team was successful.
No, we stunk.
Oh, okay.
No, we couldn't get elected, and we've got some relief pitchers who don't even belong in AAA. It's really quite pathetic, actually. And You've got our best pitcher in San Francisco with the Giants right now. Hopefully, Matty Moore will lead your Giants to victory. Though I must say, I'm pleased we got your injured third baseman, who was going to be our uninjured shortstop, Matt Duffy, who everybody
he did come up
really
as a shortstop with the Giants.
He did.
And Crawford, his space was blocked, if you will. And we talked about that on a show I do with Tim Haller, a Giants baseball past, present, and future show that I do. We talked about that last night, and Vasu was a guest on that show, a previous guest on this show, and we came to the conclusion it's a good deal for both teams, and you got to give, you got to get. That's just the way it is.
That's absolutely true. No, that's right. That's right. You needed one more strong starting pitcher, and Matt has pitched absolutely sensationally the last 5-6 times out. You will not be disappointed, right. I promise.
I always feel that, as I mentioned last night on the show, that all things being equal, talents being equal, if you trade a pitcher for a position player, you'll probably come out ahead in the long run.
See, it's funny. I see it exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. If you trade a pitcher for a position player, the position player can play for you for the next 10 years, and your pitcher can get hurt in his next outing.
That's exactly what I meant. I think
that's not what you said.
Oh, I think it is what I said. What I said is that you'll...
I don't think it was what you said.
Okay, well, you're absolutely correct. A position player will give you, more likely than not, what's on the back of his baseball cards, statistically. And a pitcher is the great unknown. And so if I didn't say it correctly, I meant it correctly. How's that? 1 out of 2.
Your intentions were honorable.
I know, but good intentions will lead you where? Down. Intentions are the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Just be surprised. Yes.
I know,
yes.
but
at any rate,
I'm not too worried. At this point in my life, I'm not too worried about hell.
That's good.
That's going to come one way or the other. My intentions on this issue are going to have nothing to do with it, and I'm hoping for the best along those lines. Anything you want to talk about? I have some things in mind. I'm just curious, anything on your mind that you want to vent? It doesn't have to be baseball. It doesn't have to be sports. Just chatting, two guys chatting like we do.
No, I have nothing to vent. Everything's going well. It would be better if my baseball team weren't so boring. I mean, it's very interesting. One of the problems with growing up and being a Yankee fan is that you knew that when you went out there, you would have players you really want to go to the ballpark and root for. And obviously I had Mickey Mantle from the time that I remember seeing ball till 1968, which was a hell of a long time. And then, of course, you had Jeter for quite a long while and, all sorts of wonderful players. The problem with a team that sort of advertises itself as sort of a low-rent team where, the ownership is smarter than everybody else, and so with small amounts of money they can theoretically win championships with small payrolls. The problem with that is that usually with those teams, the pitchers are the star players on the team. And I mean nobody pays, $20 to go to a ball game because they want to see the pitcher strike people out. That is not why people go. People go because they want to see hitters hit. And unfortunately, the problem is with the small market teams is the hitters are low-rent guys. You know, guys like Tim Beckham, guys like we got so many of them. You know, catchers. No, none of our catchers hit 200. I mean, you think you could find a catcher who could hit 200? Kurt Casale can't hit 200. The two guys we have now, Bobby Wilson, who we just got from Texas, can't hit 200.
Texas just got the best catcher out there in Luke.
Yeah, no kidding.
Boy, I would have loved you for the Mets. That would have been terrific.
You know, so if I have any ranting to do, my ranting mostly has to do with the fact that, you know, I followed the Tampa Bay Devil Rays and now the Rays since 1998. And in 1 year we made it to the World Series. But we never won a World Series. And I think until that happens, this team will probably always be a sort of a low rent team, except for the fact that when they renegotiate their radio and TV contracts next year, they'll probably have an extra $1 billion to play with. Whether they actually,
as will everybody else, though.
That's right. But you know, so there's no excuse to say we don't have enough money to buy a good catcher. We don't have enough money to buy a slugger, you know.
No, but you have enough money to charge $10 for a beer.
Yeah, well, but that's in our ballpark. The ownership does not get the money from the profits from the concessions. We had a prior owner who made a really, really terrible deal with the concession guy, and the concession guy keeps almost all of the profits. So that $10 beer doesn't even go to our ball club.
So maybe, in fact, they can't afford to pay a catcher that hits over 200. That's
well, if you can't afford to pay a catcher that you know doesn't hit over 200, you shouldn't be in this game. You should sell your team.
Isn't there a luxury tax thing with the teams that spend?
Yeah, but the thing about the luxury tax
down.
Well, it drives me crazy. There is no law that says that the team that gets the luxury tax money must spend it on ball players.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they had a decision. Put it in scouting, put it in player development.
No, they can put it in your pocket.
Do nothing at all with the money?
Yeah, do nothing. Do nothing with the money.
So this guy can take that money.
I'm not saying he does, by the way. I have no, you know, I'm not privy to what he does financially. Believe me, I have no idea. I do know one thing: he's not spending it on ball players. That I do know. Okay,
so then where he spends it is inconsequential to the conversation.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe he's spending it. Who knows? Maybe he's spending it on the Dominican Republic, tryout camp for young Dominicans.
Okay, yeah, right. Dominicans. Yeah, they have academies and this, that.
Yeah, right. You know, maybe he's spending it on academies. I don't know, but I just know. I know what he's not spending it on.
All right. Two things I want to address. Yankees were in to play you guys, and as you say, you grew up in pinstripes, and you're just like I grew up in the black and orange of the New York Giants. Mm-hmm. You grew up exactly the same way in your head. When they come to town, you're a Tampa guy. You've said that over and over on these airways. You root for Tampa. Is there a twinge?
It's not Tampa. It's not Tampa. It's Tampa Bay. We play in St. Petersburg. We do not play in Tampa.
But
there's nothing that burns me up than people who say, how's the Tampa team? It's not the Tampa team.
Okay. How about it? You try being a Met fan for 50 years of your life and see how, if you think you're frustrated at that, try.
Well, it's funny, as you know, I've written a lot of books about a lot of teams, and when I write about them, I become fans of them. And so, certainly, I spent the 1985 season with Davey Johnson and the Mets, and I wrote a book called, what's it called, Amazing. which is a history, an oral history of the Mets. So I'm quite fond of the Mets.
Absolutely, and you do obviously remember Casey and as a Yankee manager, and then as a Met manager,
that's
who
right.
coined the phrase "amazing." They're amazing, he'd say. When it's amazing that they could lose 15-1.
He was a wonderful, brilliant man. Casey Stengel was a brilliant man.
Absolutely.
Just
one of those guys in the top, certainly in the top 5.
He's in the top 2. Top. I was talking about managers. He's in the top 2 of managers with John McGraw. That's who he learned the game from, John McGraw.
Right. And but in influential baseball, not just as a manager, he invented the instructional league.
He did. That's true.
And he's got a branch himself of former players that managed incredibly successfully. Billy Martin, Hank Bauer, Eddie Lopez.
There are dozens of them. There are literally dozens of them. Yeah,
right, and
absolutely
not only, so he's right up there, not just in managers, in all-time.
No two ways about it. I mean, he was playing with the New York Giants in the 1922 World Series, for crying out loud. I mean, the guy's been around for a long time, and a very influential man.
Yeah, and incredibly loved by so many people. Just like Yogi, we love these people and their memories and the Mick. Like family members. You've seen that. Wherever you go, people want to hear about your experiences, just rubbing, coming up close to these people. I'm one of them. I just love hearing your stories. And what was when you did this, did you have one moment when it all came together and you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, "Holy Toledo," and probably around Dynasty, because that when you came home from getting that contract, you came home from getting that contract. Pardon?
I've been doing that for 50 years. Come on.
I know, but the first one, the one where you said, "I'm doing it, and I'm one of them," or I made it.
Well.
The
first one was when I walked into the office of Nick Tinchecko at Prentice Hall, and as somebody who knew literally nothing about the publishing business, had no idea that you can't walk into a publisher and say, "I want to write a book," and then end up with a contract. That was the amazing part. That truly was the amazing part.
Absolutely. And then going over to the Yankees and just
and becoming part of their organization. I think I told you I would answer the phone. New York Yankees. They'd go to lunch and I'd be there doing my research, and the phone would ring and I'd answer it. It was hilarious.
You had to go, wow.
I did. I did it often. Hell yes.
Yeah.
I did it often. Sure.
And that wow feeling is repeated through your life in many times when
I do it every day, including today.
Right. Yes.
Every day.
Not only do you get to get up, but you get to, in the sun. You get to appreciate your
Forget
memories.
The sun. I get to turn my computer on and write. The hell with the sun.
Right.
Who needs the sun? You don't need the sun. I need a computer and a keyboard and something to write about. That's what I need.
Nice. We briefly hit on your next project a couple of weeks ago, and you know how I talk over you all the time. I'm insufferable in many ways. And I missed, as people who just talk and don't listen sometimes will suffer from this disease of ignorance. And I'm one of them. So you talked about your next project and what you have going, and I cut you off. and I played it back, and I wanted to smack myself. So go ahead, talk for a while, and I'll.
I've got a couple of things. I'm writing a book with a fellow by the name of Kurt Angle, who were in the Olympics. He was the winner of the 1996 Olympics as a heavyweight wrestler, and then he became a member of the WWE, and he's been wrestling since about 1998. And he's got wonderful stories to tell, and we're putting that together. That's one of the things we're doing. I'm also doing a book. There was a woman who was murdered in Bali by her daughter's boyfriend and her daughter. And her best friend has about a 5-foot pile of letters and added to that emails from the dead woman, which you put the whole thing together will make for very, very interesting reading. And that's another thing I'm working on right now.
Okay, and does this lead up to the crime?
It starts with the crime.
Okay.
This woman and her daughter. The daughter was 19 years old when she was murdered. The mother and the daughter had been fighting for a long, long time, and this was the culmination of their fighting. But just to read the emails back from one to the other, I mean, these are some fairly mentally ill people, and just very, very. It's a very, very interesting project.
How did you find the project? Just out of
They find me.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a whole bunch of things to choose from? Is it based on what you have going? Are your decisions made that way? Would you not take anything at all rather than take something you're really not into?
No, I turn down all sorts of stuff, but
okay.
I like to work on one or two projects at the same time, and basically, as long as somebody's paying me, I'm happy to give it a shot.
Beautiful.
Getting paid, you'll be surprised how important getting paid is.
I have no experience with that over a lifetime.
Uh-huh.
So very, very, very little experience with that over a lifetime.
Okay.
Because generally, that's just the way it goes. But for short periods of time, I have had experience to be serious, and I know how that can be a motivator. Absolutely. And
well, when this is what I do.
It's
this
the
is what
sizzle, not the steak.
For a living.
It's what the bucks buy. It's the lifestyle and all that can't be denied. And you want to keep it going as best you can, and you want not just the money part. What you want to keep going is having an interest, having a passion, having something to get up and wake up to, and that's what
exactly right.
What life is about, and that's what
it certainly is.
Because the inevitable is the inevitable, one way or the other.
That's a crap. Who wants to hear about that?
Right. So, but all right, that was lovely. Can I kvetch about the Mets? Why you kvetched about your team?
You can't. Yeah, you can kvetch about the Mets. The Mets. See, the thing about the Mets. Yeah, I know that your owner lost a lot of money from that swindler. I know that, but I also know that the Mets have a really, really fine general manager. Not terribly thrilled with our manager, but I think the general manager is somebody who's been in the game a long time and sort of really knows what he's doing. So I get the feeling that the Mets are on the right track. They've suffered from injuries. You've lost some key players, which it's impossible to replace them. Though I think you picked up a pretty good piece from Cincinnati. That seemed like a pretty good deal. So I think the team will be better. Outfielder.
Bruce.
Outfielder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bruce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when Cespedes comes back, and I think the big problem is that Dianza, who is just starting to put it together and is the only legitimate center fielder they have. They have like 6 corner outfielders. He was hurt today in a costly loss or a costly win. They won today, but having a guy who can go get the ball in center field makes a big difference.
Without a doubt. Well, we lost our Kiermaier. We had one center fielder by the name of Kiermaier, Kevin Kiermaier, and he went out. And once he went out, we never won another game. We didn't win again until he came back because we didn't have. The thing is about a small market team is you don't have 2 guys. You only have 1 guy. And so when he went out, there was no other speedster in the whole organization to do what he could do, and we just started to lose and lose and lose. And we were 2-20 for one streak, which you don't come back from. You just don't.
Yep.
You, on the other hand, you've got $200 million to spend, even though Madoff took all your owner's money. You still have pretty good money.
Well, I'll tell you, that's the second time you said that, and I got to respond by saying there were an awful lot of allegations that Wilpon was in on that, and he, in fact, took some of Sandy Koufax's money and others, and that he's... You don't really believe that. I'm asking you a question.
I don't know.
You don't really believe that. Do you think he had anything to do with this? Do you think
I don't think he had anything to do with it. Madoff's the only person who kind of knew what he was doing was the bookkeeper who was working with Madoff. I'm not even sure his wife knew. I mean, he pretty much kept it all to himself because once he fell, $1 million behind, all he could do was just keep doing what he was doing until he was, $10 billion.
Borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, basically.
Yes, exactly right. And eventually, of course, the whole, the roof caved in. But the thought that the guy who owned the Mets would have anything to do with it is preposterous.
Okay. There were no nicknames for him, Will Ponzi or any of that, or...
Yeah, who knows? I mean, they were close friends. They could have been nicknames, but that didn't mean that he knew that Madoff was stealing money.
I don't know what happened, but I think Sandy got enough money out of him last year to be able to go out and get Cespedes. I give them all a whole pass on not spending money. I think a lot of it has to do
at the point that they weren't spending money, they couldn't spend money. But somehow, Wilpon, who's a pretty smart cookie, somehow managed to sell a little piece of this and a little piece of that until he had, he was back in business again, which I thought was kind of neat. Yeah.
And it's going, and the only thing that has really got him is injuries, and you can go down the list from Wright to
Wright was a killer. Wright was an absolute killer. That killed him right there. That
killed their heart too. He's one of those guys that's a clubhouse guy.
Yep, no two ways about it. Yeah.
That means a lot. It's just not a bunch of statistics. They're not robots. They're human beings.
Yep.
So, which brings me to a flawed human being, as we all are on some level. And what came out today, A-Rod is either retiring, being asked to retire, settling up. Is he going
he made a deal. He made a deal with the Yankees. He wanted to make sure he was going to get his $25 million from next year, and he did. Okay. And they made the deal, and the deal was he would retire on Friday, and he would be an associate, an advisor. He would hang around and, sign autographs and do that sort of thing, and they'd pay him his $20 million next year. But they didn't want him playing anymore, and so on Friday against the Rays, that's his last game. He's done.
Yeah.
Which is
and
a shame.
Is it at Yankee Stadium or is it in?
It's at Yankee. No, it's definitely at Yankee Stadium. Sure.
Okay.
If it had been at the Rays, we might have drawn 20,000 people.
Might have gone all the way up. It's like being
you never know. You just never know.
It's exactly like being an A's sympathizer. Although the A's draw very well when they play teams from Boston, from New York, they do very well. So it's I don't know what it is. I really don't. They had trouble drawing.
Well, see, the A's are a different situation from the Rays. The A's, you've got to compete. The A's have to compete with the Giants, which, that's tough because the Giants every other year seem to win the World Series. This is a very, very good team. And you play in a sort of a dilapidated, not so fabulous ballpark, and that's sort of the problem that we have as well.
Right. So from that standpoint, there are similarities. But let me tell you something, Peter. Back in the 70s, when they had what I consider to be as great a dynasty as there was, 5 years there in a row, 3 years winning, and a couple of years wrapped around. They didn't, under Charlie Finley, they didn't draw very well at all. And the park was much newer and much more state-of-the-art.
Well, I think part of that had to do with a dislike for Finley. Finley was a highly disliked character.
Yes, he
may have had something to do with it. And all I know is, when I spent that season with Billy Martin and he was managing the Oakland A's, that joint was jumping. That joint was jumping. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's doable. You just got to find the right people to do it.
He had four guys that, five guys, Brian Kingman and Norris.
Yeah.
He did very well with those guys. And
certainly did.
Arguably the best defensive outfield of our time, with Murphy, Armas, and Rickey in left. And
people don't realize it because he played where he played. But Rickey Henderson was one of the finest ball players to ever play this game. Rickey Henderson, when we played every April before the season started, we would play, pick players for rotisserie baseball. And where Eddie Murray went for $33, he was the second most expensive player. Every single year, Rickey Henderson went for $50, and every year he was worth it, which is amazing.
Right. Stolen bases, this, that, and the other thing.
I can't tell you what a great player he was.
Is your league just the five basic pitching and five basic?
Four and four. All
right. And Rickey still held up with
that.
Well,
Rickey would hit 320. Rickey would hit 20 home runs. And he
had a little bit of power.
Rickey would drive in 65 runs, and he would steal 100 bases.
Right.
You can't beat that.
Which assured you of winning that
category, of course. Sure.
Yeah. How's your fantasy league team going before I let you go?
Oh, right now I'm sitting around 7th place, trying mightily to finish 4th.
Okay.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too great.
Yeah, but
I started with 3 Rays pitchers. I started with Matt Moore, I started with Chris Archer, and I started with Drew Smiley. And I thought these 3 guys were going to take us to a pennant. And then, of course, after Kiermaier got hurt, nobody won anything. And that's the thing. You go 2 months without your 3-star pitchers winning any games, and it's just, it just kills you.
So do you get to keep Mike Moore that he's with the Giants, or is it?
We get to sit Shiva for Mike Moore.
Okay. Okay. Oy vey's meal, he's
you
dead
got it.
again.
You got it. You got it.
All right. I hope he's the only person you sit shiver for the
That's it.
very, very foreseeable future.
Yeah, I suspect that will be the case.
Be well, my friend.
Thank you, Ralphie. Talk to you next week.
All right. Be good.
All right, bye-bye.
Adios, everybody. Keep on keeping on. That's the best thing I can tell you. This is fun for me and hopefully for you, Peter, and you, the audience out there. Adios, everybody.